This week, Monica Potter meets Freddie Prinze Jr. and falls head over heels.
Cameron Diaz embarks on a journey that leaves loved ones with questions in the invisible circus.
And Mel Gibson investigates a mysterious death in the $1 Million Hotel.
Quiet! Order!
You're not a smoker girl, are you?
No.
That's how we all got put together. We are the last 4 non-smoking models on the whole island of Manhattan.
Monica Potter discovers her new roommates are all models in Head Over Heels, one of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week. Plus, Roger and I were both out at the Sundance Film Festival, and we'll tell you about some great new discoveries. I'm Richard Roeper, columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Head Over Heels, and it stars the sparkly Monica Potter as an art restorer at the Met who finds a cheap room in a luxury apartment with 4 gorgeous models, and compared to most movie supermodels, they're awfully nice. Then she falls instantly in love with Freddie Prinze Jr. even before his dog knocks her over.
Hamlet definitely seems to like you.
You mean he doesn't just tackle anybody?
No, he tackles everybody. But he only drools on his favorites.
Well, I'm flattered.
A little later, for complicated reasons, she becomes convinced that Prinze is a murderer. She's still in love with him, but now she looks at him through new eyes.
The fashion world is complicated. It's all about the next thing. Everybody's running around all crazy looking for some new idea, but they're too frantic to actually experience it. That's not what I want.
What do you want?
I laughed a lot during the first 20 minutes of Head Over Heels when it couldn't seem to do anything wrong, but after that, it doesn't do much right. The moment Potter starts suspecting her new boyfriend of murder, the film switches over from fresh, original personality comedy to a tired and overworked crime scenario involving the Russian mafia. Gangsters in a comedy are usually a mistake unless the movie is about gangsters. As plot devices, they only take up room. I suspect the studio knew that since their view clips don't show us a single gangster, only Potter and Prinze, who are very charming together.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie, though. You know, 2 years ago, Freddie Prinze did a movie called She's All That, which has the same plot as this movie. Then last year, he did a movie called Boys and Girls. And She's All That, he was in high school. In Boys and Girls, he was in college. Now he's a young executive. I think he's got that aging disease. He's going to be like grumpy old stud in a couple of years. But it's the same movie each time. He's a charming guy. But nothing happens. And I wish this movie, you're right, there are some laughs. About every 10 minutes or so, there was a really wicked, mean comment. I mean, sometimes really crude stuff. I thought, okay, this might have a chance. But then they pull back because they want the PG-13 rating and they want to appeal to all audiences. And it just becomes contrived, and we've seen it a million times
Monica
before.
Potter handles the meet cute at the beginning, the very first meet cute, really well. I was laughing and laughing and laughing. And every once in a while, one of the models will come up with a zinger.
Yeah.
So you're right about that, but
Terrible movie. Our next movie, though, is The Invisible Circus, which is based on the kind of coming-of-age novel favored by smart, serious girls of a certain age. Cameron Diaz plays a bell-bottomed hippie chick named Faith who runs off to Europe in 1969 with her boyfriend, Wolf, played by Christopher Eccleston. There are a couple of giddy, grandstanding protesters who embark on their own Europass revolution, hopping from country to country in search of something, anything to rebel against.
Of ending the war in Vietnam and winning the just peace we all desire.
Wolf can only watch helplessly as Faith's commitment to the cause results in her suicide. 6 years later, Faith's younger sister Phoebe tries to find out what happened.
What? You must have some idea.
No, I don't, except that when you do something crazy for long enough, it starts seeming normal. To hold the edge, you have to go further and further out, and Faith had no trouble with that.
That's Jordana Brewster as Phoebe, whose relationship with Wolf has become pretty complicated by the time they close in on the spot where Faith committed suicide.
You act like a miracle's gonna happen, like she's up there waiting for you.
You shouldn't have come.
Phoebe, it's a place. You walk up and walk back down.
Well, then what are you afraid of?
Of what's gonna happen when the ghost you've been chasing disappears.
Diaz slips comfortably into Faith's tie-dye persona. She's electric and maddening and quite sad. Brewster is gorgeous and earnest, but she flounders in some of the more passionate moments. Still, The Invisible Circus is an intriguing travelogue that incorporates flashback romance with some keen insights into the realities of the so-called revolution of the 60s as it flamed out in the 70s. It was at least as much about partying as changing the world.
the revolution was. The movie isn't. The movie's more about changing the world. But, you know, I've seen this movie before. There was a movie called Waking the Dead with Jennifer Connelly as a young girl who drops out into the radical underground movement. And I thought, and that wasn't a perfect movie, but it was better than this one because here in a way, you want one story or the other. The problem of cutting back and forth is the movie obviously knows everything that happened, and Wolf knows everything that happened. And so as he doles it out to Phoebe, it's kind of coy. It's kind of like he's withholding clues until they can move to the next location. And I lost patience with that.
Well, it's a little bit of a device that's a little too obvious, because if he just told her at the start, the movie's over. But it did work for me, and I disagree with you. I think it is about how much of that stuff was just kids who were spoiled. They had nothing else to do, so they rebelled for a while, and then it just kind of fizzled out. I also like the way it showed among the so-called anarchists, there's still a system of government where the leader is in charge, and people are trying to angle to get in good with him. That all worked for me as well.
I've seen that before. There have been so many movies about the Red Army and the various underground groups in Europe, and a lot of them much more intelligent than this one. Coming up later, we report from the Sundance Film Festival. Mick Jagger comes to Sundance.
Do you like being Mick Jagger, the movie producer?
I enjoy it once in a while.
Coming up next, Mel Gibson checks into the $1 Million Hotel.
Why do you like me so much anyway?
I don't know.
Mila Jovovich and Jeremy Davies begin a shy and painful love affair at $1 Million Hotel, the undisciplined and self-indulgent new film by Wim Wenders. She's a hapless waif, he's mentally retarded, and they live in a Los Angeles hotel that looks half like a slum and half like a rock star hangout. After the son of a millionaire falls from the roof, Mel Gibson turns up, describing himself as Special Agent Detective Skinner of the FBI.
As you know by now, your bathrooms aren't working. But before I'm finished, there'll be no bathrooms, there'll be no rooms, there'll be no hotel. There will be a big hole for all of you to fall into. And I'll be digging that hole every minute I'm here.
The dead man was a painter, but now another hotel resident says he painted those pictures. That's Jimmy Smits, who claims to be Geronimo and says he's the head of the Navajo Nation.
It is about all of the lives, the cultures, the moments that are buried in the pavement, lost forever.
Wim Wenders has made some great movies like Kings of the Road and Paris, Texas, but $1 Million Hotel is a mess. It's impossible to determine what this film is about while it's running, and impossible to care once it's over. Wenders sidesteps his responsibility to his actors, his film, and his audience.
This movie is living proof that a lot of really talented people can get together and make a total disaster.
Yes, it is.
And actors like Jeremy Davies and Amanda Plummer and Bud Cort, they need to stop doing those quirky characters. They've done it enough, and it's just really annoying. It's a disaster for Mel Gibson to be in this movie. This is the worst movie this year so far.
Oh, easily, easily. You know, you look at it and you realize that nobody had a plan.
No.
The director had no vision. He threw everything up in the air and hoped that something would come down right.
Yeah.
And, you know, oh, let's all improvise. Let's all be colorful characters and have this colorful set, and something will happen, and nothing.
Nothing happens, and we can't wait until it stops happening.
Coming up next, we traveled all the way to Park City, Utah, and still couldn't get out of the balcony. Our Sundance report when we come back.
But they do a pretty good job of you know, filling the theater as quickly as possible and getting people to turn off their cell phones, which is the mantra of Sundance.
E. O.
A.
F.
D.
Is it German? Come on, genius.
You're looking at a scene from Michael Apted's Enigma, a British thriller that was one of countless movies that played over 10 days in Park City, Utah at the Sundance Film Festival. Sundance is America's most important film festival, a celebration of independent films that ranges from zero-budget digital dramas to more commercial productions like Enigma. The movie stars Doug Ray Scott as a codebreaker recovering from a breakdown, Kate Winslet as the plucky brunette who puts him back together again, and Jeremy Northam as a suspicious security man. The movie was co-produced by Mick Jagger, who called it his own declaration of independence. Why do you have an eagerness to get into film production, which is such a...
Well, you know, I got rather bored with people trying to involve me in their projects, and then the projects fell to pieces, and, you know, I thought, well, wait a minute, if I'm at all interested in this, I should start doing things that I'm interested in.
I read the book when it came out, and it has a lot of interesting stuff in it, not only about the science, but also about the love story.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, it's got these different... It's not just about code breaking, which could have been a bit dull. So it's got code breaking, the love story, and it's got a kind of... It's got some underlying moral questions also.
Movies are shown all over town, from the 1,400-seat Eccles Center to the Little Egyptian Theater on Main Street. We both came here to the Egyptian to see Things Behind the Sun, the Allison Anders picture.
Yeah, it's a very powerful rock and roll movie, kind of the dark side of Almost Famous.
Now, your bail's already been posted, and the court hereby orders that you attend 30 Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in 30 days.
That's Don Cheadle as the overprotective ex-boyfriend of self-destructive singer Kim Dickens, and it's another outstanding performance from the star of Traffic and The Family Man, who's one of our hottest actors right now. Cheadle also stars in another Sundance entry, Manic, and we talked about his first experience at the festival. What's your impression of the energy of it?
I'm just turned on by the fact that, you know, I don't know who said it, Baudelaire, I don't know who it was, who said that when everyone has a pen, art will truly belong to the people. And now with the advent of all this digital technology, you know, you got Final Cut Pro, you could put it on a Mac and get Pro Tools, you could really make a movie at your house, you know, for less than 25 grand. And that's incredible.
I know I have had that feeling. Sitting in the audience, the person speaking is speaking directly to me.
Errol Morris is probably America's best-known documentary maker after The Thin Blue Line and Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control. And at Sundance, he demonstrated the Megatron, an improvement on his Interatron. They're devices to allow a subject to look straight into the camera and straight into Morris's eyes at the same time.
It's been rigged up with 2 cameras, two-way mirrors, 2 television sets, and in this particular instance, 12 supplemental cameras.
For me, the most exciting visuals at Sundance were in one of its best films, Richard Linklater's Waking Life. He filmed the philosophical odyssey of a young hero seeking the answers to questions of life and death, and then worked with Austin computer wizard Bob Sabiston to convert the footage to dazzling animation.
So film is actually like a record of God, or of the face of God, or of the ever-changing face of God. You have a mosquito. Do you want me to get it for you? You got it. Got it? Yeah, you got it. Okay.
I always say I would have never done this film live action. It was only when I saw Bob's software and what he and Tommy were doing in some of their documentary shorts and what they were working on, that look kind of jumped into my brain and mixed with this idea I've had for, I mean, honestly, as a filmmaker, I've had since I picked up a camera and even before that.
Last year, everybody was talking about cyberspace and .coms, and the independent film was moving to the web. And this year, .coms are melting down, and it seems to be back to square one again.
Even as we speak, it's getting to be more about, I think, more about just the movies themselves, whether or not they're any good.
One question that people have asked me several times is, has Sundance sold out? It doesn't seem to have the purity of vision that it had in the earlier years. And my answer is, what do you mean sold out? The purpose of a movie is to sell tickets and get people to come into the theater and sit down and look at it. That's what all movies are about, from Titanic to some $20,000 movie playing in a hotel room down
like
the street.
When people talk about rock bands, when they get successful, they automatically say they sold out. I go, no kid picks up a guitar saying, boy, I hope nobody listens to my music someday.
I know.
And nobody picks up a digital camera, no high school kid saying, gosh, I hope I just show this to my friends. It's a business, and people are coming here because they're hoping that someone's going to pick up their movie, and lots of people are going to see it. So the fact that it's getting bigger may make it harder to get around. It may make it more difficult for some of the films to break through, but it also means that more films are getting a showcase.
Maybe they could eliminate the introductions, because the director always gets up and says the same thing. Hope you enjoy the film. I'll be here afterwards if you have any questions.
Is this on? Is this microphone on?
Yeah, bump.
They lose all their technical expertise when they're in front of a crowd. So maybe that would be a better way to do it. And it seems to me that every movie starts 15 minutes late. So if every movie starts 15 minutes late, why don't they just put a 15-minute later starting time?
No, because then it would start 30 minutes late.
30 minutes late. All right, you got it. We'll be back in a moment.
This is my second time here, and this time I have a really good movie.
Much of the best fare at Sundance was dark and controversial, but there was also room for the uplifting whimsy of The Dish, a story that combines the majesty of the Apollo 11 mission with the quirkiness of an Outback character comedy. The Dish in question is a gigantic satellite in the Australian village of Parkes, where a small band of engineers is responsible for transmitting the historic broadcast of man's first steps on the moon.
You've lost Apollo 11.
Yeah.
Southern Hemisphere's prime receiving station has no idea where Apollo 11 is.
Yeah, it's on its way to the moon.
The Dish is a very funny and oddly moving story based on factual events. Now, reality is bent in an entirely different direction in Series 7, a whip-smart satire on TV shows such as Cops and Big Brother and Survivor. The deadpan premise is that each week, a SWAT team outfits 5 randomly selected contestants with handguns and flak jackets. The champion is already out there, armed and dangerous, and the 5 contenders must join the so-called game, which isn't over until only 1 contestant is left alive, and then 5 new contenders are chosen.
My parents are very overprotective.
You've got your guns?
They're very
Rifle?
concerned about me.
And the film that really rocked me was Memento, an intense and riveting jigsaw puzzle with a screenplay as challenging as The Sixth Sense and The Usual Suspects. Guy Pearce from LA Confidential plays a man with short-term memory loss. He can't remember things that happened 15 minutes ago. So as he investigates his wife's murder, he has to use charts and notes and even body tattoos to remember clues.
So you have information for me?
Is that what your little note says?
Yeah.
Must be tough living your life according to a couple of scraps of paper. You mix your laundry list with your grocery list, and you'll end up eating your underwear for breakfast. I guess that's why you have those freaky tattoos.
Writer-director Christopher Nolan, who won the festival's Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award, unspools the mystery by starting at the end and layering each scene in reverse order, in effect giving us short-term memory loss as we try to follow the sequence of events. Memento is easily the best film I've seen so far this year.
I don't know if I go that far, but I loved it. I really did. I love the fact that you follow these clues back and back and back, and everything has to be reinterpreted on the basis of what you knew later rather than what you know now.
Right.
Or what you knew before, which is really later. And
that's the thing.
It's fun.
This is a movie that really does not have one unnecessary scene, because each one you have to go, and you go, oh, okay, now I get it.
It was appropriate that it won the Screenwriting Award, and it's based, I guess, on a story that Christopher Nolan's brother wrote, because the ingenious construction of the screenplay is what everything else depends on.
And the short story is going to be in Esquire soon.
Okay. My favorite film of Sundance, however, was not Memento, although it was way up there. It was In the Bedroom, co-written and directed by the actor Todd Field, who was in Eyes Wide Shut, the Kubrick film. A young man, played by Nick Stahl, is in love with a slightly older woman, played by Marissa Tomei, and we see the effects of this romance on his parents. Tom Wilkinson and Sissy Spacek, who won a special jury prize for their acting, are superb.
Oh, God, you don't think he wants to...
Oh, he's not going to marry her.
Well, then what's he doing with her?
She probably loves him. Girls always have. Let's just leave it at that.
I was thrilled by the electrifying energy in Piper Parabo's work in Leah Poole's Lost and Delirious, set in a girls' boarding school. She's in love with her roommate, and when the romance ends, she responds with passionate conviction.
It is the highest point, and once you are up there, looking down on everyone else, you're there forever.
Another great performance was by Tilda Swinton in The Deep End, where she plays a mother who wants to protect her 17-year-old son and ends up linked to death and blackmail. There's one sensational scene after another, but Swinton's strong center performance keeps the film from going quite over the top.
I don't have all the money. I could only raise 12,000, a little more than 12. Here, please say it's enough.
And 2 more wonderful performances come from Lily Taylor and Courtney Love in Julie Johnson. Taylor plays a housewife who undergoes an inner transformation, throwing out her husband, signing up for night school, revealing a flair for higher math, and beginning a romance with Courtney Love. It's not the sex that's thrilling, it's the way she falls in love with new ideas.
I've been reading magazines, Omni, Discovery. Every time I go to the grocery store, I buy 1 or 2, sometimes 3.
And I also had a lot of fun watching Hedwig and the Angry Inch, a wild musical about a transvestite rock singer. John Cameron Mitchell directed and starred as Hedwig and won both the Audience Award and the Directing Prize. The feature film Grand Jury Prize went to The Believer, the story of a Jewish anti-Semite. It's a challenging film with a powerful performance by Ryan Gosling. I think I'm going to need to see it again to sort out my own feelings. It's very challenging. And there were a lot of other films I admired. This was the best Sundance in a while, I think. And after all of those years when everybody was distracted by low-cost digital and dot-coms and it's all going to the web, this year was back to the movies again.
It seemed to be about the storytelling and some great performances. I want to go back to In the Bedroom for a second there. And Marissa Tomei, you know, she won the Best Supporting Actress for My Cousin Vinny, and there have been a lot of jokes and urban legends that she might not have deserved it. But in The Bedroom, she gives her best performance, and I pledge that I'm not going to forget her when we get toward the end of the year and start talking about Oscar-worthy performances.
She is fabulous, fabulous in that film. And by the way, I've looked into that story that Jack Palance read the wrong name. It's a complete urban legend.
Total urban legend.
She won the Oscar, and she deserved to, and she deserves to be considered again this time.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll be right back. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. 2 thumbs down for the fitfully amusing Head Over Heels. But we split on The Invisible Circus. Roger's seen similar material handled better, but I like the performance by Cameron Diaz. And finally, 2 big thumbs down for the disastrous The $1 Million Hotel.
Remember, you can hear our reviews at Ebert-Roeper-movies.com and read us in print at suntimes.com, and the Sundance Film Festival website has some of the festival entries on it. Next week, more new movies, including Hannibal with Anthony Hopkins returning as everybody's favorite cannibal. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.